All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Heart and Hustle podcast. Today is going to be a special episode. I got my boy Lionel Miranda with me, founder and CEO of Spotlight Entertainment. And I want to really use today's episode as an opportunity for us to take a deep dive into his mindset, but also the blocking and tackling that goes along with trying to build an entertainment business, especially in somewhere as competitive as Las Vegas. You're going toe-to-toe with some of the biggest names in the entertainment space when I think of Vegas in general. And the fact that you're like your boots on the streets and literally just like holding down all of the fun experiences that we all have on a daily basis, I think is so cool. And so I want to kind of give everybody an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into your mindset and some of the stuff that you're doing to build this company.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. So thanks so much for coming
everybody?
Today, bro.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't we give everybody a little bit of a breakdown about Spotlight Entertainment and what it is that you guys do, and then we'll kind of take it back to the place of where we got started.
Cool. So we started off as a music collective, just a couple of DJs trying to get more gigs and share each other's networks and resources. Mm-hmm. Over time, we've more so turned into an agency. So it's gotten a little more corporate. There's a lot of people that are on the roster that I'm not really as close with. Before it was like a tight-knit group. Yeah. Now it's just like, not saying we lost quality, but there's more quantity. Mm-hmm. We still vet for quality. But we've went from DJs to live bands and also managing media contractors as well. So overall at this time, we pitch ourselves as a music and media agency. We do one-off gigs such as like weddings or corporate events. But our big focus at this time as a business is to gain residencies or corporate partnerships that are long-term, all right, reoccurring over time versus just one-off and we never see them again.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me that you kind of took on, like, from my perspective, back when we were younger, living here in Las Vegas, we would always go to these bars and these places that were super poppin'. There was always entertainment up there. And then all of a sudden, you started getting some of those gigs. You started creating that collective, if you will. And now you're the guy who's basically running the entire show.
Well, even back then, obviously, I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. A lot of the people who are managing the calendars at some of these bars, a lot of the people who were, event managers at these establishments, they would actually reach out to me at the time and say, hey, do you know a photographer that could come over for this event? Mm-hmm. Do you know any DJs that are a good opener for this specific act? And at the time, I would just refer them to the individuals that I was connected with and basically broker the deal and didn't ask for any compensation in return. Mm-hmm. It was just, hey, yeah, I have a buddy. Let me get him some work or get her some work. And I never really realized I can make that into a business later on.
So when did you have that realization that maybe you were stepping over dollars that were kind of laid down for you? What was that like?
I think during the pandemic, right? Pre-pandemic, I had a steady gig with, my previous company. Yep. Just College, Pollen, etc. We were growing tremendously. I was deep into that, as we were taking that company global. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even really think about the extra cash on the side. It was more so, let's help my friends out or help a friend out, earn some extra money for a side hustle or a small gig on the side. Once the pandemic happened, I realized, there's like opportunities to, dish up some contracts and get a piece. It wasn't necessarily about me taking money from their pot. It was more so, hey, if I can get them enough gigs, hopefully I can have them quit their 9-to-5 jobs and just do what they love to do full time. Yeah. So it was more of like, hey, this is a partnership now between you and I, and the connections that I have around the city.
Wow. I mean, it's so cool that you kind of took the bull by the horns, because we need to fill some of the gaps in the entertainment and the DJ space. And I would rather have the homie be the point person for all these different bars and these collectives of organizations. And you can just make sure everybody's taken care of. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. One other thing that,
and I feel like, honestly, that's kind of the role that you've always played ever since I've known you. Like, you've always been like, so you're the president of our fraternity. You've always been like one of the best homies. You're always like holding everybody down. Is that something that you kind of like internalize a little bit?
I mean, I realize it's not just about me. Mm-hmm. I probably realized at a very young age, it's, you got to help out the whole network of people. I mean, a lot of the people I'm putting back on were people that were giving me rides to work when I had no car. Oh, wow. Right. Or they were, spotting me on food when I'd say, I'll come to lunch, but I'm not eating. Mm-hmm. I didn't have enough money to eat, but I'll come kick it with you. And, you're already here with me. Let me spot you. And it's like, all right, I was able to have these experiences because a lot of people around me actually like hooked me up. So it just makes sense for me to pay it back now that I have a little more in my life, resources, network, etc.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of the process of getting Spotlight Entertainment spooled up.
Yeah.
So you were referring the homies into these entertainment spots to be DJs.
Yeah.
Right. Now you call me one day and you're like, I'm going to go all in on this music stuff. And I'll always remember that day. And we talked about that in the previous episode. So you guys can go check that out, hear more about Lionel's story. But how do we take the steps to like establish the business? Like, what was the mindset of Lionel like? Are you like, I'm going to push all the chips in so I can really start standing this up? Like, what are some of the growing pains in those early days?
Yeah. Early days, I would say it was June 2021. Vegas was at 50% occupancy. I knew that I was going to go to 75, then 100. I told my girlfriend that I needed to quit my office job and just focus on this full time. She's like, oh, maybe you should wait till you guys have a couple of gigs first or a couple of contracts until you do that. I was like, well, if I'm working 40 hours a week on my computer and then I'm not going to, and then, having to make dinner, hit the gym, etc. By the time I'm done with all that, would have like 3 more hours till I got to go to bed. Do I really have the brain capacity or bandwidth to do all that even after I'm done with everything else? My days off have to be filled with grocery shopping, laundry, etc. So I was like, hey, I got to take the leap and do it now. One, the more I can go all in on it, the faster I can get these accounts up. And then two, I knew that the window for opportunity was very small, especially with the pandemic coming out of what it was in the past and things starting to open up. If I didn't attack that right then and there, everybody else would already be on it.
So how do you convince your girl that this move of going all in is the one? Because I know a lot of people who are listening to the show or who are watching today are going to be like, I have a dream.
Yeah.
I want to go all in on my thing, but like I don't know how to start the conversation with my partner, with my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever that is.
Okay. Yeah. So I basically told her, look, put in the 2 weeks, gonna leave on good terms, right? I've got experience in sales, etc. from the past. I'll dish up my resume and just have it ready. If things aren't going well, I'm sure I can get a job within a few weeks. Or I can just go back and try to get my old job back. So I left on good terms there. I did have a backup plan per se, but I knew I wasn't going to use it. I wanted to make her happy and just, and I guess it was a peace of mind for myself and just in case.
Yeah. I think that support from our partners is so important. And sometimes I know a lot of people that have the entrepreneurial lifestyle are often in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think because you and Haley both came from the place of like being a part of an organization that was growing, you guys took on so much responsibility. Do you feel like that's kind of why it was so easy to be like, hey, I'm going all in on this and this is the plan?
No. I mean, there was times she made me drive Uber because things weren't going as fast. I did that for one day, never drove again.
Yeah.
I got this job with this beef jerky company. I love beef jerky, and I worked with them for 3 days. I ended up dumping that.
Yeah.
And I just tried to tell her, look, I know you're trying to tell me to get some extra money on the side, but then I just don't love it.
Yeah.
I need to be focusing on this, and I feel like if you're passionate about it, things will follow,
Mm-hmm. Who was your first big victory that kind of put you in the place of being like, this is going to happen?
I started working with Corner Bar Entertainment as a solo DJ, just myself. I wasn't even referring other DJs to their venues yet. I worked at Park on Fremont just during a dinner shift, playing background music for people eating dinner.
Okay.
I was at First Friday, and I had opened a music studio right across the street, from where they host First Friday in the Arts District. Mm-hmm. And I got a call saying, hey, we need a DJ. Someone called out sick. Could you be here in an hour? And I was like, yo, I'm already downtown. I'll cruise over. Didn't have any music on me. I rolled to my studio real quick, found an empty USB, and I just went online and I just downloaded as many songs as I could in 45 minutes.
Wow.
Threw them on the USB with no headphones. I walked in there. I just played straight up, just mixing by ear in the sound system, no headphones. And the USB I got together literally within an hour of time for enough for me to load the USB and then drive over to the shift.
Oh, God.
And from there, they basically called me back again the next week and then the next week. And then I think someone called out over at Commonwealth Rooftop. And I was like, all right, at that point, I was much more prepared. I had like all the music I needed. I always had headphones in my car. I had headphones in my backpack. I had headphones in my house. Like no matter where I'm at, I had a set now.
Yeah, right. Up
Yeah, even in my pocket right now, I have like 3 USBs on me.
Yeah.
The backup, and the backup, just in case, one gets spilt on.
Yeah.
Anyways, I kind of took advantage of that opportunity, people calling out and them needing a filler. I didn't say, hey, give me a second to think about it. It was like, yeah, I'll be there, and I'll figure out what I got to do to get it done.
Yeah.
Even for the Commonwealth thing, cool, I'll be there. And I didn't even know what kind of equipment that was going to be in the club. For DJs out there, musicians, like there's certain gear that you're used to playing with, or certain, hardware that where all the buttons and stuff are. I'm sure you have that with your cameras and stuff here. And if you just got thrown another camera you've never touched before, it might take you a second to figure out.
Oh, yeah.
I just told myself I'll figure it out on the spot, no matter if there's 500 people in front of me. And, yeah,
Dude,
you got to risk it.
That sense of adaptability
Yeah.
is so fundamental
sorry about
for
that.
success. You're good. The ability to kind of say yes quickly,
Yeah.
I think is a superpower. Do you feel like you recognize that inside yourself of like, here's an opportunity, I'm going to get after it and I'll figure the rest out while
Yeah.
we're kind of heading down the runway?
I think that adaptability is one of the main characters you have to have as an entrepreneur. I was saying this with Sean Stewart over at the Boulevard when you came to my house. It's you adapt with the times, you adapt with the market, you adapt with your clients, and even right now we're adapting to social media, where we're talking about, hey, things are on YouTube, but we also need to get the reels going, the TikToks going, and now it's moving from editing, what is that called, like
Long
landscape
form?
to
Yep.
like portrait mode where it's
Yep.
full frame. I mean, things change all the time, and you got to be willing to move with the times, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, just like the time of being an entrepreneur right now, because social media is so prominent. No matter
Yeah.
what space you're in, mental health, healthcare have to be on these platforms.
Yeah.
DJ, entertainer, business owner have to be on these platforms.
100%.
Has that been something that you've started to lean into a little bit?
I spent the last 6 months of this year generating a lot of content for myself. I have not put any out yet. You'll probably start to see them trickling out like later July,
Okay.
early August. But the plan was, let me just make a backlog full of content versus trying to make a new video every day. I could pump out 1 to 3 a week. And then for the later half of the year, I could pretty much do a post a day, every other day, as much as I want to, without having to think of ideas on the spot or do the editing and the filming, etc.
Yeah, the plan of attack is, I think, super important. And I feel like when people don't, I'm going to use the word batch their content, it becomes very overwhelming to have to show up every single day and produce a new piece of content.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge way people burn out, because they're like, I just can't keep up with this pace that you're excited about on day 1. But by the time you get to day 60, it's like, dude, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, so I've been posting what I had to. I promoted my last release. I've been promoting some shows here and there.
Yeah.
I'll do a couple still photos just because I have them in the back pocket. But as far as like the video content goes that I've been sitting on, more strategic about how I put it out versus what I've been trying to do the last few years of just post when I can and do things when I'm bored. It's like, no, let's just have a folder full of stuff.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So let's get back to, Sean, something that you talked about. So me and Sean have been kicking it. And one thing that he brought into one of our conversations was, you should see how detailed Lionel is. He's like, every single room I went into, there was a whiteboard and it had goals on it, and they were all checked off. When did you start that? And like, when did you start becoming so organized about your plan of attack?
Ilya, I used to live with a guy named Ilya Gasol in
Yep.
college, and he had this whiteboard in his room that said 100,000 by 30. That was the exact words. $100,000,000 by 30 years old, basically. And I was like, oh, what is that? It's just like a goal of mine. I wanted to write it out and look at it every day. I was probably like 19, 20, 21 at the time.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about doing something like that. Back then, I was just worried about girls and drinking and partying, right? I still had like responsibilities, but I wasn't thinking about my future in that capacity, especially like where I was going to be at by 30. So I was like, okay, I should start doing some stuff like that. And In 2013, I went through like a pretty bad depression. Got kicked out of school, things like that were very near and dear to me. So one thing that helped get me through that phase was, hey, let me watch some YouTube on like how to like change my mindset. Let me like look up some books on how to like change my mindset from being like down and depressed, potentially like getting back into my happy mode and, you know, the person that I always was. And the more books I'd read, the more I'd realize that like it's about consistency over time versus just whenever you want it to be. It's about, you know, writing these things out, speaking these things out loud, envisioning them, and basically creating the reality around you. As cheesy as that may sound, the manifestation or whatever it is, attracting these things, I found to be extremely real. It worked for me. And so I say, all right, I'm going to just continue these habits. And what do you know? I'm 30 now. This was, again, like I said, 19, 20, 21 years old. So it's been 10 years. I've done it consistently over the last 10 years. Pretty much all those things I just spoke about and more. And I got myself here. So will I ever doubt these like books and stuff? I don't think there's like a get rich quick scheme, but there is definitely a format that helps with success over time.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is Atomic Habits.
Yep.
And it talks about lagging indicators. So it's like your fitness is a lagging indicator of all the choices that you've been making consistently over the last couple months.
Okay.
Your bank account is a lagging indicator of your spending habits over the last couple months.
Yeah.
So if your bank account is down, you've been spending too much money. If your bank account is up, you've been saving. Right. And when I think about the idea of manifestation, people think it's so like foo-foo and soft that they don't believe in it. But they don't recognize it's the consistency that you talked about there that gives us the results that we look for, but they don't show up today. It's like that delayed gratification.
Yeah. And again, nothing happens overnight. The dream house you have might have the pool, might have the ping pong table, the 5 dogs that you've always wanted. But like, you don't just buy the house and those things come with it. It's like the house first, the dog second, the pool gets built a few years later, your backyard's probably empty before that. I don't know. You know, these things are a vision that you have, and you just kind of slowly chop away at it.
What was that first vision that like shit really started to become real for you that you put on the board and you were like, whoa, this actually works?
I think it was buying my house.
Yeah?
Yeah. I bought a house at 26 years old. My family never owned a house. I mean, thinking about just like a friend group, I was probably one of the youngest to purchase.
You were for sure. I don't own a house to this day. Yeah.
And really just kind of saying, reading books is a good investment investment, especially at the time when I bought in 2018.
Yeah.
5 years ago here in the Las Vegas market. You know, at the time people were telling me, oh, it's a bad time to buy. But then when I realized about the market, things go up, things go down. And things always end up going back up. So I said, all right, I'm not going to time this thing out. When I got the money, I'm just going to run it, empty my whole savings account, and just put a gamble. That alone is like a risk. A lot of people aren't willing to say, hey, man, I just saved up $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 and then just put it down on something. But if you're not willing to do that, then you're never going to see the results out of it. The fact of the matter is I saved that up over a couple of years, and I knew if I lost it all for some odd reason, I can do it again.
Yeah, because you built that skill set. You know what I mean? Like the confidence that comes from recognizing that we can make more money, I think is a superpower. You know what I mean? The inconsistency of the world, the up and down of the market, right? Being able to have the skill set that helps you win consistently through time, I think is something that is so undervalued that more people need to really think about. It's not what we have, but it's the skill set that got us there that's so valuable. You know what I'm saying?
I dig that.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot in the last one.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. So here's my question for you. How do you start building your team? So it's Lionel hooking up the homies, right? But like, how do you start putting some infrastructure underneath you about like how you're going to be the CEO and leader of this team? Because you can't do it all.
All right. I think the first thing I did was sit down with a lawyer and figure out like what these agreements would look like. Partnership agreements with partners who are helping me provide things such as sound systems, speakers, subwoofers, etc. Those are the things that we need for live entertainment, right? If the venue doesn't already have that inside in a clients contacting us to do a pop-up live band in their backyard for a wedding, I need to be able to provide those kind of things in order to get the band to play, because the band might not own it themselves. Right. So, all right, let me find a partner that provides these things. Let me schedule a meeting with this individual and have a partnership agreement already dished up. Who do I have to pay to, go over these details and check the verbiage to make sure it'll hold up in court?
And how did you identify that those things were important?
That's so funny. I had this epiphany the other day that my mom would always say this to me growing up, and to my brother and my sister too, is put it in writing.
Mm-hmm.
And she would have these like mini contracts with us when we'd say, hey, these are your chores for this month, or your duties for this month around the house. And I remember my mom like making us like write it down and sign a piece of paper. And I always thought like, oh yeah, real contract. But then I realized actually that does hold up. Just a straight up like written agreement on a piece of paper with 2 signatures actually holds up. Even like verbal stuff can hold up. Obviously easier if you have something in writing.
Yeah.
Email chains can hold up. Basically what I've taught when I talked to a lawyer, I went into the seminar once and I was listening to this lawyer. Then I also did like a one-on-one consulting. Basically any like exchange of services or goods for a promised dollar amount or service or trade in return is an exchange of services or product that can be a contract. So yeah, I sat down with the one-on-one with the consultant, looked at partnership agreements for other partners. I looked at agreements for having contractors, and that would, in my sense, would be DJs, bands, photographers, videographers, right? That was kind of like the initial.
Yeah.
In other businesses, it might be a cleaning business, and your contractors might be maids.
Yeah.
Or it could be, someone fixing your AC. That guy may work for the company.
Yeah.
That allows him to be a contractor of that company.
Yeah, it's like establishing like clear expectations of like what I'm going to give, what I'm going to get.
I'm going to get you business, and this is what our splits are, things of that nature. I think that was like the pivotal thing that I did right up front. Mm-hmm. And then as I started to get into actual staff that I needed to run the business, operations, assistants, social media, marketing team, I started to build out those type of contracts. Mm-hmm. And I think it just helped even if it's a friend working with me, for example, even my girlfriend, I made my girlfriend sign a contract.
Yeah.
Down the road, if we're fighting or something, I want things to be very clear of what the expectations and the outline was of what we agreed upon back then, versus getting in a fight about something that was unclear or just spoken word before.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, like from a headaches perspective, like you're obviously like reducing risk in the future by having clear expectations of what everybody's expected to do and then the things that they're supposed to execute on their behalf. That's interesting. So let's talk about the process of hiring new team members. Mm-hmm. So what type of qualities are you looking for in people who you hire and who you work with?
First and foremost, shout out to the team. Obviously, I wouldn't be here without them. Mm-hmm. I ran the company by myself for a year. I was wearing all the hats, and I burnt myself out. I had to take a full month off of just delegating all of my gigs and basically not doing anything just because I was so burnt out. So shout out to the team. What I look for in individuals is availability, track record of their characteristics, right? If I've known someone for a long time, are they known to get things done? Are they fit for that specific role, right? So I'm working with someone right now in a marketing position, and like this, for as long as I've ever known her, she's always been really good at like making her Instagram look fancy, great at editing her videos and her photos to make them look catchy and different and unique than what other people are posting. Mm-hmm. She has worked in companies in the past where you don't need to be micromanaged. You don't need to work in an office. I can just give her a list of things and it'll be done by the end of the week. Because she had the things that it matched with what I needed in my company, right? Yeah. Some other people might need people on the ground, boots on the ground. But that's not me. I needed someone that I knew had experience basically working remote and holding themselves accountable. Check. I needed someone that was creative for this specific role. Check. So everything differs from role to role.
Yeah.
But I have kind of like a vision of what I would want to be if I was that role. And I make sure that person kind of fulfills majority of those. And even if it's not all, either I can coach on those additional things or potentially refer some books. Or I'm even happy to fund that out of pocket if there was like a local trainer in the area that can teach them that aspect of things that I don't know myself.
Yeah, so let's reverse, because you said something that was very interesting to me. I did not know that you had to take a full month off because you were wearing all the hats.
Okay.
That experience in itself has to be kind of humbling, because it's like naturally as an entrepreneur, right? I think I can work all hours of the day. I can do all the jobs. But at the end of the day, we end up getting very burnt out because we're not meant to handle all of the tasks.
Right.
So when you started kind of getting into that place of burnout and like feeling, I guess, fatigued and sluggish about what you were doing, you decided to take the time off. But how did you start trusting other people to execute on your vision? Because me personally, I have sometimes a tough time letting other people do work that I don't think they're going to be able to execute on, and like being able to trust people to get stuff done is very difficult. So like, how did you build that?
So I do want to rewind actually, because I think we're on a different page here. Mm-hmm. When I took the month off, I wasn't posting on Instagram.
Gotcha.
I didn't send out an email blast that month. I delegated every single gig that was like, people reached out to me to DJ. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, I'm not available that date. Actually, I wasn't available the whole month. I told myself I'm not working this month. Mm-hmm. Delegated to all the contractors that I work with. And then I realized that, oh crap, like I can't just let the business not operate for a whole month. Mm-hmm. So it was the following month is when I started hiring.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that year went by me doing everything myself. Mm-hmm. Then I took the month off, realized I can't necessarily just do that. I made no money this month.
Yeah.
I made it just enough off the referral business, like lead commissions and stuff like that to pay my bills.
Yeah.
But then I realized, okay, nope, I can't continue this way because I'll burn myself out again this next year. I need to change something up. So basically started recruiting a team around me at that very point. Mm-hmm. And how do I trust them to?
Yeah, it's like, because my thing is like when everybody thinks about building a team, right? Naturally, we recognize everybody's got to play different roles. Yeah. But like, where do we find these people? And then how do you put yourself in the mindset of like, I'm going to relinquish this task. Yeah. It's your responsibility now. How do you kind of build that trust with that person?
I think I start small and then work my way up. Mm-hmm. Hey, I have a list of like 20 things I need taken off my plate. Mm-hmm. Let me like put this onto a whiteboard, like Sean was talking about, or a piece of paper, organize them by like what's the easiest to learn versus probably what's going to be more difficult. Okay. As I'm training this individual of like tasks that need to come off my plate, let's start with this week's to-dos are like these three things. I'll go over it with you in person. Mm-hmm. The next time you'll do it yourself. And if anything was done on computer, it's recorded via Zoom with video and audio and visual. And then that recording is put into a folder on Google Drive.
Yes.
So that person hears it from me, they do it themselves, and they have the ability to go back and watch it. From there, once they're doing those three things very well, okay, let's add on these next three things, and before you know it, whatever was on that contract or agreement for the role outline, all those 20 things are taught to the individual, and they have the capability of doing all over time versus just you toss them everything at once. Yeah. I think is when I do stuff, it's methodic and there's an execution plan in place.
Yeah. And this is the thing I think a lot of people can learn from. You know, often we kind of have the expectation that things need to come off our plate and we give them to other people. But often we're not the best leaders in being able to teach people what the plan of attack is. Yeah. And it sounds like you're very methodical in how you kind of put your plan of attack together and then how you hold people accountable as well.
Yeah. I think it's the reason why I had an epiphany there and I kind of laughed out loud is, in my opinion, I actually went to school to be a teacher originally.
Oh, okay.
It's teach, let them do, like they need the muscle memory and stuff. But then you have to, like I mentioned, the thing that I thought was funny was I'm recording these things on Zoom and then dropping them into a Google Drive folder.
Yep.
And it's called training material. That's, I feel like, one piece that a lot of people may be missing is if you don't have somewhere for them to look back at,
Yep.
then they're going to call you and you have to not waste, but you have to distribute more of your time and energy to reteach that thing that they learned 2 weeks ago versus them just going back and watching the video that you pre-recorded. And the beautiful thing about Zoom is like it's free to download. Even the premium does the screen recordings. You just got to make sure that, I've done this many times actually, that you are sharing screen and recording the desktop.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm clicking record and it only picked up the audio.
Yeah.
But didn't pick up any of the visual that I was trying to show go down on my softwares or tools that I'm using.
Lessons learned.
So, yep, I've done that twice now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. One of the things that I think about, which is a superpower, is a sense of accountability. And one of my guys that I look up to in business name is Alex Hermosi. He says, and often our team members don't need to be taught, but they need to be remembered or reminded. And I think that's really important. But how do you balance when you've got a team member who's not performing as well as you expect them to? How do you kind of come in as that coach, if you will, in that one-on-one session and kind of hold them accountable to what your expectations are?
I have this project management tool called Monday.
Yep.
Monday allows you to set tasks, set deadlines, set status updates from in progress to completed, basically. Not started, in progress, completed.
Yep.
There's actually starting to become this like second row of things that aren't necessarily tasks. They're just reminders.
Yeah.
Reminder. Always need to put the hashtags on the social media post. Because I saw that even though we talked about it over our one-on-one meeting, there were 3 posts this last week that didn't have it on there. So let's put the reminder in Monday. Again, I'm not set by any means. Let's put the reminders in here so you see it often. And then over time, we'll just delete it. And it becomes a habit to them, and then we can forget about it. And it's not me scolding them. It's like, hey, we'll put it here just to remember more. Even for me, I write everything down. The brain's only can take in so much information, remember it. So let's do our due diligence to write everything down, have everything live in here. For the things that are checklist, we'll check it off over time. For the things that are just reminders, we'll have that reminder there until it is a habit, and then the habit, and then we'll delete it in general.
Naturally, people, from my experience, have a tough time with things like documenting, and I would say the micro effort of like managing tasks. Did you have any type of pushback from your team at any point in time about like why this stuff is important?
No, because I always explain why we're doing it first. First, hey, this is the reason why we're doing these hashtags. And I'll find shortcuts. For example, like on your phone, you can go to text replacement in your settings. Okay. And if you wanted to have 20 hashtags on each post, you can put tag 1. And as you spell that on your phone, it'll suggest on your phone, instead of doing autocorrect, it'll suggest text replacement. And you can click and put 20 hashtags at one time.
Wow.
And like in 2 seconds. I don't know. Is this triggering?
No, it is, because like this is one of the biggest things. I mean, I think about the content that we put out there. Normally we strategize and think about like the hashtags we're going to put out, but often it's one of the things that gets forgotten. Yeah. Because we don't think about it.
So like the ones I have is like, mine says like tag 1, which is like media tags, tag 2, which is like music tags, tag 3, which is like, I don't know, things pertaining to Christmas or the holidays. And basically, yes, this is why we're doing it, for more outreach. Who knows if it will work or it will not work, right? But let's just give it a shot anyway, because with this shortcut, you don't even have to think about it. One other thing that's been like heavy for me and the team is like, all right, everyone needs to file their receipts. If I get audited by the IRS, I need to know what got spent where. I need paper trail of everything. So it's like as simple as if you were to order something with the company card and it sends you an email, not a physical thing, that email needs to go into a folder on your email saying receipts and invoices from 2023, 2022, 2021. I need to be able to click in there and like, if the IRS asks where something lives for this charge, can I find it immediately? And that's something living in people's Monday project management board right now is file the receipts. right? And get that, set you in a routine. Right when you see the confirmation receipt come in, you just basically drop in that folder. All right, I'm not trying to micromanage it, but let me see the receipt folder. All right, everything got done this week. If that happened 2-3 weeks in a row, all right, we could just delete that.
Yeah.
That part of the training for you is over. I think like that because I'm the owner, but I explain to them the reason why I need that. Why do I need this done?
Yeah.
Right? And I'll explain, look, if you ever were to start your own business down the road, you're learning things from me that you can also implement into your business in the future. If you ever find something you're passionate about and you want to venture off and go do your own thing, these are things you probably want to know as well.
Yeah. So what happens have you ever had team members who just like don't want to fall in line with the things that you're telling them and why they're important?
I mean, I've had two guys that I've worked with not end up panning out. I don't think it's necessarily like they weren't listening to what I wanted to do or lead on. I think it's more so just like it wasn't their passion. Got it. But I feel like the people I work with right now, like they're really into arts, they're really into creativity, they're really into music, and just like me, like they don't mind putting in the work. Because even for me, some of this doesn't even feel like work, right? I think you're trying to take someone from, another realm of expertise or another passion, and you put them into like the music or arts scene. Just like me when I worked at, my old jobs, I just kind of showed up and went through the motions. I don't think I was like totally passionate about doing everything.
Yeah, I gotcha. Because it's like, one of the things that I've dealt with just in time in general is like, how accountable do we hold people, especially as the owner of a company, to do the things that you want to do? Because like you mentioned a couple seconds ago in like a joking manner, like I'm not micromanaging, but I think you do a really good job of communicating why somebody needs to do something and what the bigger picture really represents.
Yeah, definitely. And even from the get-go, like when I had my initial first team meeting, hey, this is what my goal is for the company. And I'll say it, I guess I'll just say it now, right? Let's try to grow this thing and infiltrate the market, and we'll disrupt the community. And it's either we become the leaders in the community and we acquire the other businesses who are competing with us, or we're valuable enough to where we can sell the business to them and we're all part owners of it, and you guys will get a piece too.
So what does that ownership stake look like? If you don't, you can just break down just like percentages in general. Because one of the things that I find is like people are much more vested when they have a bigger upside.
Yeah. So Spotlight Entertainment actually owns a few businesses now, or is the umbrella overarching company of a music studio, a photo booth company, record label, and then we have ourselves. Yeah. But everything has different ownerships per se. Yeah. So for example, like the photo booth is through a partnership. I think I have slightly more ownership, just because I'm funding the website, the insurances, the permits, the licenses, etc.
Makes sense.
So it was only fair that I had slightly more ownership than the other two partners in that. But yeah, I mean, let's just say 5 years from now, that photo booth company was the biggest one in Las Vegas. We were taking market share from our competitor, who was previously the biggest one. At that point, they're going to either be wanting to merge. This is what happens in the business world. Yeah. When companies start to get really big, is they merge, or they try to acquire the other company that's competing with them, so they don't have that competition anymore. Or you could potentially sell your company to them. My long-term goal is to make music and go on tours and, tour with photographers, videographers, tour my music, tour my message, and perform, whether that be a DJ or a vocalist. So I do want to sell the businesses, right? I could do this for the rest of my life, or if I get to the point where I'm touring, I can hire even more people to manage the businesses that I'm operating right now. Yeah, I just want to get in position to where everything's organized to sell. All of our data is properly stored. Our email subscription list is massive, right? I can sell the company to someone and easily teach them in a matter of like 2 months how to operate everything from the ground up because there was a solid system in place.
Absolutely.
That's where my mind is 5-10 years from now.
Yeah. And this is a perfect opportunity because I want to bring up a book that I read a couple of years ago. It's called Built to Sell. And the biggest issue that businesses have today when they try and sell their company is they cannot run without them because often it's founder led. They're the talent. They're the person who's going to be executing on the vision or creating the content or doing the whatever, right? And so when they go to sell a business, there's no framework in place that allows for them to actually hand it over to somebody. Because the only reason you're going to buy a business is if you can benefit from this.
Yeah, continue to make money off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you crash it to the ground, it's not worth anything.
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Well, and it's not probably that person's fault it crashed to the ground. The people who sold in the business probably didn't have a system in place.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. And like, that's been a big part of my, I would say, level up process as an entrepreneur is recognizing that my job from the top of the company is to make sure that there are the systems in place that this thing can run on its own.
Yeah.
And that was a big realization because you can't be the baker and the candlestick maker and everything else at the same time. Like you really do have to start thinking about from a position of CEO and ownership, how I can start building the team underneath me to execute on this stuff.
The first exercise I did when I was starting to build the business, one of the very first exercises was to make an org chart.
Okay.
So I put myself as the top, as CEO, and I said, what positions would I actually need to operate this company? All right, accounting, marketing, sales. And I have this umbrella. All right, if I were to hire marketing, what would it be? I'd probably need someone doing design, probably need someone running social media. That's like its full-on person. At this time, the person I have in marketing is doing all of that. Yeah. Hopefully 3 years from now, there's a couple other people under. But I looked at it as a org chart, right? Just type in business org chart on Google and say, okay, these are the things that I need. I'm doing all these things myself. And how fast can I start plugging in more people into these things so I'm not doing them anymore? That alone helps with organization and bringing a system. And then when you're bringing on like director level people, I'm even having them think about, hey, if you were to hire someone under you, when you're building your system to stay organized, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, right? You're the expert at that. Build out your, folders or your Google spreadsheets or whatever softwares you need. And make sure you know how to teach someone else what you're doing. Yeah. Because one is we're going to hire someone under you eventually, and that person's going to take some work off your plate. You need to be able to train them. Yep. And two, down the road, if we were to sell the company, could we tell this other company how to operate this department quickly? Right. The faster we can get those things done, probably the faster the acquisition or the deal happens.
Do you think a lot of this, I guess, intuitive knowledge came from the place of you working with Just College and seeing the team blow up? And
100%. I am very blessed to have gone through several been a part of many startup companies that have sold. Yeah. Or got acquired. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching all these things go down from afar when I'm in my 20s. I'm basically just picking up all this knowledge. Yeah. And so when I start my own company, I'm not thinking of what we're going to be doing tomorrow, how we're going to be paying bills next month. I'm thinking, how are we going to sell this business 10 years from now?
Mm-hmm. How do you get into that mindset? I mean, it's a real question because I know a lot of people, even including myself, in my earlier years, I was so focused on just how in the fuck am I going to get from here to there? And often it doesn't give you the ability to kind of step out of the weeds. So I got a couple things I want to talk about, but I want to hear that first.
I guess the first thing I thought about was, okay, if I wanted to be a millionaire overnight, not overnight, I guess it would take several years of pushing and building. Mm-hmm. And then, I could sell the business for $1 million. Cool. Now I'm officially a millionaire, probably selling $1 million cash or however the distribution was made over time, right? Yeah. That'd be awesome. But how can I do that if I don't have a system or a business that's profitable that I can easily pitch to someone to pick up from me? Mm-hmm. That alone was like the driving factor of me thinking long term. Yeah. Now, like I mentioned, it could go the other way. 5-10 years from now, I might acquire competitors, right, and end up just hiring more people to help operate this bigger grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. And I've got an intuition that this is going to end up happening here in the next couple of years is you're going to start thinking about that bigger vision and how you can start kind of gobbling up the marketplace.
Yeah. I mean, look, if one of my songs blow up and I start touring, I'm going to have to just kind of have people manage my businesses or sell.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I believe in myself, but things don't always go your way.
Yeah.
So I am prepared to potentially, hey, this might be the way that I'm in the industry as an agent, as a label owner, as a artist manager. That might become my long-term role. Yes, I want to be the artist, but if I'm 42 and things aren't hitting, like, I do have to start thinking about my family and my future.
Yeah. Sure.
So either way, I know I'm going to be in a part of the music business forever. And I'm very confident that I'll make an impact on the Vegas scene, right? That's in its infancy right now.
Yeah.
You know, long term, if there was a documentary about music in Vegas, the music scene in Vegas, I'm hoping my name gets dropped at some point.
Maybe somebody needs to make that documentary, dog.
Right. But we're nowhere close to as big as we could be. I feel like there's no real prominent artists coming out of Vegas right now.
Yeah.
So if I can just be a contributor to that versus being the artist that comes out of Vegas as the next big thing, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But I have all of my avenues ready to go.
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're building out a really solid team underneath you. You know, your approach to saying, like, I'm not going to micromanage you, but this is kind of how I believe you should execute. Like, talk about your mentality as a leader of an organization. You've got a new key role underneath you. Let's call it marketing.
Okay.
You don't have expertise in that space, but you do have an idea of how things should look. How do you communicate to them what your expectations are, and what happens if they're not executing at the level you expect?
Yeah. References, maybe. Hey, this is an account that I want to be like. All right, this is how often they're posting. This is kind of content that they're posting.
Okay.
Let's try to replicate that.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned many times over the last couple of minutes, compete with them.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be competing with them overnight, but over time we can have, you know, relevant following or posting the same amount of relevant content. Yeah.
And what happens if they're not taking the initiative to kind of execute at the level that you expect? And it sounds like you haven't really dealt with this, but I know a lot of people out here are like,
I'm already thinking about this.
Yeah.
As a business owner. It's a tough conversation to have.
Yeah.
Even for, like, I hired a friend in sales and I said, hey, look, we're friends first.
Yeah.
We're business associates second. No matter where this goes a few months from now, if it doesn't pan out to where we want it to be, we're not going to let the business come between us. We're always just going to be friends. You call me anytime you want to give up on this, you know, or whatever. And that's fine. We're still homies. As far as, like, marketing stuff goes, let's say I need to hire someone new.
Yeah.
I personally don't think I have the budget to pay them enough to give them the expectations that I want currently. So one thing that I'm dealing with right now was, like, should I find an investor? And when I'm pitching to them, a part of that money that I'm getting from the investors would be to hire better talent, to help with expansion, publicity, and so on, which in theory hopefully helps with sales and revenue. But I know that I don't have the budget to pay the quality of employees that I want to. Not that my employees aren't quality right now. Don't get me wrong. They're great for where they're at in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them are younger. But if I wanted to snag someone from, who knows, a company like Spotify or Twitter, right, that needs 100,000 plus per year, I couldn't do that without the funding at this current time. So it's a thing that I'm battling right now. It's like, hey, should I start to go get funding for an expansion? Wait, now I got to give these people a percentage of our earnings when we're doing fine without them right now. It's a very hard line for me to balance of what I want to do next. And I do know if I want to expand the team into more experienced individuals that I will have to go out and find some funding pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the dichotomy where I find myself as well. It's like, you know, I hear from an example of somebody like Alex Hormozy, who's like, you know, the biggest way for you to grow is to bring other A players in.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to do that, because it's like you can force a B player forward, but like an A player is 20 times more effective as a B player. You know what I mean? And so it's like, how do I get these people on my team? How do I build the business up by not also cannibalizing the business at the same time? Do you know what I'm saying? Because like we're doing fine, like you said. Do I give this person a shit ton of cash and then a part of all the revenue that comes in from that?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, how do I balance that as a leader?
And one thing I'm having troubles with right now is people are saying, why don't you just ask for money? There's people out invest in this idea. You can show them the books, everything's going well, whatever. But I'm like, at the end of every month, we're sitting fine.
Yeah.
Staff is paid. My bills are paid. There's some to pay off the company cards. And then there's a little extra to contribute to my 401k or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, the house is shot up in value. You know, whatever. My cars are paid off, etc. So like, am I needing to bring someone on? I'm fine the way I'm living now.
Yeah.
If someone does an investment, then a portion of our monthly, quarterly, yearly profits are gone to this individual. But did we grow?
Yeah.
It's not something I can answer that. Are we going to grow year one? Or are we going to lose money because we hired these people?
Yeah.
and from what I've seen in the past, after you take these big investments, you do actually, in the way that you go about spending, if you're doing it talent-wise, trying to hire talent, you do end up losing money for the next couple of years.
Yes.
So you end up having to actually come to an agreement on what you want your personal salary to be as an owner, now that there's investors involved. But that caps the amount of money I can make now versus what I'm doing now. We have an unlimited roof.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. It's
Dude,
really
I
true.
think about this stuff all the time.
And this is kind of where you and I are in the same mindset. I know a lot of people kind of get stuck because it's like, I'm good now. Like, everything's great. We're in the podcast studio. This is awesome. But I also have higher ambitions for myself. And sometimes it's very difficult for me to kind of balance the need for more while recognizing I have everything that I have right now. And I think kind of it's like I have this internal expectation for myself that is so much greater than I think anybody can experience.
Yeah.
And it's like me and you, friend to friend, it's like I have a tough time balancing that.
Yeah.
Of like, how do I go get more, but do I need more? You know what I'm saying?
Dude, you got a nice spot right here. Working car in the driveway,
Yeah.
right? Like, we are fine.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's
compared to like a minimalist who's probably also living happy, like we're doing really well. And we have a lot of cool things, but I don't know why. I just think there's room for growth. And I guess that's just been like a numbers person for me. I love watching like the numbers grow.
Yeah.
I love watching the team grow. A benefit for our business is that we'd be able to employ more people. We'd be able to employ more bands, DJs, etc. And like I mentioned, one of the biggest goals for myself when I started was, could I get enough business to where some of these people can quit their 9-to-5 and just work as a musician full time? And I've seen that happen with a couple of contractors already who are not working another job. And I do think that Spotlight events has helped get them enough. They're probably getting their own events too.
Yeah.
Maybe doing like lessons on the side and whatnot. But I do know that some of our events that we given them per week, per month, are helping them contribute to being able to comfortably not have to go back to, you know, working or wherever they were at before, behind a desk or at the store or at the mall, etc.
I mean, you're creating that sense of freedom.
Yeah.
Not a sense of freedom. You're creating true freedom. That's allowing people to get out of the 9-to-5 and the grind and letting them do what they need to do, which I think is so powerful. So the thing that you're good. So the thing that, you know, I naturally go to is, where do you want to be at? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, now that everybody knows how tactical you are about the things that you put in front of you from a vision board and from a whiteboard perspective and establishing goals, what does the next 6 months look like for Lionel?
Oh, man. Don't have the whiteboard in front of me. But these next 6 months are going to be split between quarter 3 and quarter 4. Quarter 3 going to slow down a little bit. Got a couple of weddings to attend. We're saving up for a Maui trip at the end of the year to be able to treat ourselves. It's been a long 6 months already.
Yeah.
Not only do I want to go myself, I want to be able to take the team with me that's helped build the past year, whether it's going to, you know, California or whatever, Disneyland. I want to not only treat myself at the end of the year, I want to be able to save enough money for them to come with me.
Yeah.
Basically give back to the team. So the next 3 months, there's a couple of things that I'm saving for to happen by the end of the year. whether it's personal endeavors like weddings and stuff that I need to attend, and or the company retreat that I want to host.
Yeah.
The last 3 months is going to be purely dedicated to the holiday season. Starting in October, we have Halloween, tons of events around that holiday. November, you're basically gearing up for all the Christmas and parties and stuff that are going on up and down the strip. Last year, we worked with Caesars Entertainment.
Huge.
Did their company party. We're working with some pretty big names now.
Yeah.
Cirque du Soleil, we're doing their event for. HP, Hewlett Packard, we just did an event for. These people call us back for their, corporate Christmas parties, whether they want a band to play or a DJ set. We want to be able to provide that service. And last year during December, we didn't basically take a minute off. We were working 12 hours a day, 30 days straight, to fulfill all of these events that were going on in December.
Wow.
And leading up to even New Year's Eve parties that we were helped provide entertainment for up and down the strip in downtown. Anyways, so the next 6 months is going to be half dedicated to saving for, personal adventures and company adventures.
Yeah.
And then just really prepping for the holiday season, which is Q4, which is the busiest time for our business.
Yeah, you guys are getting ready for the sprint. Real
Yeah.
talk. So where does the balance of like work-life balance come for you?
Well, that's why I already know. Like, I'm already planning the trip to Maui in November. I already want to do a team outing in December. The dates are already blocked off. I'm thinking about these things in advance.
Yeah.
But they're not free.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to just buckle down the next 3 months, stop spending a lot on the business, knowing that I'm going to be spending a lot on those things. I plan personal outings and stuff like far in advance.
Because this is the thing that I'm thinking about these days. It's like I want to be better at practicing what I preach when it comes to work-life balance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like I'm in the season of my life right now where it's like I just want to be so deep into working and trying to figure stuff out and testing and pushing stuff forward. But I also recognize that I very quickly sometimes approach that sense of you're needing to take a month off and just like delegate. You know what I mean? So like that work-life balance is really tough sometimes.
Here's something I did before January 1 of this year.
Okay.
I looked at everything that I had to do for this year. I knew that my buddy Ryan's wedding was this date. I knew Ben Green's wedding was this date. I knew that my girlfriend's best friend's wedding was this date. I knew we wanted to take a trip during this day. I knew we wanted to go to this music festival. So I mapped all these things out that we really needed to get done, from the weddings to music festivals to the vacations. What month were we planning these things, right? So basically, like every 30 days, there was like something going on. And how I'm thinking of it is, dude, I will personally bust my butt for 25 days straight just to go on a 5-day vacation at the end of that month.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm putting in time for walking my dogs and going to the gym and getting 8 hours of rest so I don't burn out. But I always am seeing this like light at the end of the tunnel every month or every quarter where there's like this big trip planned for myself. And it's not usually like the weekend outings anymore for me. It's like these like mini vacations that are a reward after putting in the work for 25 days straight.
And I think this is where I can take a note from you. It's like, dude, the planning, do you know what I'm saying? Months in advance gives you something to look forward to. So it makes the work today not as stressful.
Yep. If we knew we were going to Disneyland at the end of July, hey, we're going to be taking 5 days off to go to California, then hit 2 days at the beach, 2 days at Disneyland and California Adventure.
Yeah.
And we're going to splurge. We're going to sleep at the hotel we want to. We're going to eat what we want to and not have to think about it. But in order for us to be able to do that, we need to put in all the work we possibly can over the next 25 days.
Yeah. And you don't have a tough time having people to buy into that message either.
I mean,
and the reason I ask that question is because sometimes in my life I have seen differences in what we are expected to accomplish. So Lionel definitely has a different chip on his shoulder and what he wants to accomplish compared to one of your employees.
Yeah.
So how do you balance your mindset as the person who's pushing this entire sled forward with strategy, and you can kind of articulate the big vision to and the difference between somebody else who's kind of like in the trenches every single day, just like doing the work?
I'm doing my best. I'm not saying I'm the best at it. To one, just paint the picture of, even when we started working with Sweet Heat Records and the team that we hired under that sub brand of the company, I let them know, like, hey, you know, I was a part of We the Beat for a while. We the Beat is now controlling an entire stage at Life is Beautiful. I started working with them at 2016. And until this day, they have that stage there, right? I work with a group called Flash Gang, who have DJ for the last 6 years in an art car at Electric Daisy Carnival, ran by Boots and Cats Records. And as I was explaining to the team, is that the harder we work at this, the faster we grow. We can be the people at these festivals. Outside Lands running an art car. Life is Beautiful running one of the stages. And it's a big stage too. I think it's 850 capacity technically, but I've seen 1,000 people in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like I've seen it done before. I've worked with teams that have got it done before. Now our team needs to go get it done, and we can make it a reality for ourselves. So our friends can play there. We can play there. We could say that we are part of putting this thing together. We are part of booking that headliner for the stage or whatever it may be. Again, like all the people that are involved in the business right now are music lovers.
Yeah.
The people I feel like that weren't necessarily pure music lovers or art lovers, like kind of fell off. Not in a bad way. Again, it's just not their passion. I think they're going to find something they love one day and realize, wow, this is what work could be like. But to paint that vision to people around me, and I think they do see the bigger picture, because I can tell real life stories of things I've been affiliated with in the past that have gone this way with hard work, and they've seen the results themselves. And now it's just our turn to go and do it and replicate again.
Yeah, I love that. As I'm thinking about kind of like all the sub brands that you have, right? You've got Spotlight, which also has which companies underneath it, or which sub brands?
Again, yeah, it's Sweet Heat Records, a record label. Sounds by Leo, which is just a music studio that I run. And then it's LV Disco Booth, which is a photo booth company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you keep all three of those sub brands marching in the same direction? Do you have like a cadence of meetings that you guys have? Is it like a weekly? Do you touch base with everybody on a daily basis?
It's kind of like different teams running each, actually. Before I was thinking, hey, why don't I have this girl work across all brands? And then I finally realized, I think she should just be the expert at this one. Me and Haley, the director of operations, internal operations, we both work across all of them.
Yeah.
But the other people that we're working with are just like dedicated to a specific thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Haley is somebody who also keeps everybody in line and makes sure they're marching based on your guys' vision. Yeah. The only reason I asked that question is because I know that, so many people have lots of stuff going on. Yeah. Right. But it's also very difficult to keep all those things in line unless you have like a structure and a system to get that stuff done.
Yeah. It was a lot to get done when I was first thinking of all these concepts. Everything was living under one roof. I think we may have talked about this before. I got, I don't know if it was a criticism the other day.
What's going on with all your brands, Lionel? I can't keep with your businesses.
Well, yeah, they were like, why do you have so many accounts? Why are you promoting so many different things? Well, if everything lived on one website and there was 50 different offers, you'd get highly confused when you got on there.
Yeah.
That's why, car brands, they own like 7 different car brands. One's the luxury.
Yep.
One's the mid-grade. One's the entry level for people coming out of high school, getting their first car. It's not just like all these cars on one big lot. It's like focused on a specific market of people.
It's a great analogy.
What I want to explain to my friends watching this is not, yes, thank you for following all of my accounts and seeing all the different endeavors I'm taking part of. But the end consumer is not necessarily my friends. So it might be confusing to them, but other people might not even know I'm affiliated with all these things. And that's fine, because that specific thing is only dealing with this market of people.
Right.
Right. The photo booth company in particular,
I have a question.
I don't think should be mixed in with the record label.
Yeah, I have a question about that though. So when you started these different sub brands, were you just recognizing like areas of opportunity that you guys could take advantage of? Just being in the entertainment space in general, you're like, hey, like we need a studio, we need a record label, We need the DJs. We did like you've created an ecosystem of businesses that seem to feed into each other.
They definitely do feed into each other. For example, like we're doing a show July 8th, Chingy, downtown.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. A lot of Spotlight's DJs are opening up for Chingy in partnership with We The Beat. We The Beat reached out saying their sponsor is looking for a photo booth. Ended up getting them in touch with LV Disco Booth, who is now providing the photo booth for the event. So now our LV Disco Booth team is there, and so is the Spotlight team. And again, it's an ecosystem of network. But nonetheless, a lot of this stuff was all on one website when I first started.
Right.
And then I realized it should be separate websites.
Yeah, the compartmentalization creates value in itself.
Yes. Even for having my music service offerings, recording, rehearsal space, mix and masters. Yeah, it has to do somewhat with like bands and music and DJs. But the people that are coming there to shop for that are going to be like artists and singers who are looking to record songs. The people who are coming to Spotlight Entertainment are corporate GMs and event planners that need entertainment.
Yeah.
So the target market is different, which means I believe that the Instagram needs to be different, the email needs to be different, and the website needs to be different, right? The branding needs to be different business cards. If I had a business card with all of my services from everything, the business card wouldn't even say my name. It would just be a whole list of services.
Yeah.
And then people would be like, what the hell am I looking at right now?
It'd probably be like a 3x5 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, here you go.
Yeah, so something I got better at over time, and I realized a lot of corporate conglomerates do.
Yeah.
When you look at, Coca-Cola, they have their energy drink section. They have their water section, which is Dasani. They have their soda selections. They probably are in some stuff that I don't even know.
Yeah.
But everything's for a different type of people and different type of end consumer.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, it's super important. I think that individualized focus is something that like clears up the buyer's journey as well. You know what I mean? Not as much confusion, not so many things to pick from. I'd rather go to In-N-Out Burger than Jack the Box.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my last question for you today is, if you had to give advice to someone who finds themselves passionate about starting their own business and doesn't know where to get started, what is your piece of advice to them?
Okay. I've been thinking about this a lot because I was thinking of content ideas for my Instagram and TikTok. So I would say this, just get a sheet of paper or whiteboard, write all of your ideas down of what you want to do. There's going to be some things that are cut because they don't make sense, right? Or, again, you're going to have to split it up into its own thing, right? But if you wanted to start just on something easy, if you had ideas and had to do with sports, circle everything that has to do with sports, figure out what your products and services are. Are we selling merch? Are we selling hats? Are we selling posters, right? That's the products. On the services ends, are we doing trainings? Are we doing sports consulting, etc., sports betting? Who knows what it is? What are the products? What are the services? Everything that you know you're an expert at or you can sell and market that you would be passionate about selling and marketing, put it in a spreadsheet, list the pricing of everything. Go ahead and grab an LLC or a business license. It's highly preferred that you take that license once it's done, go to a bank who will offer you, try to negotiate with the bank to offer you a year of 0% interest on a credit card. Use that credit card to now go launch the website with all your ideas. Right? Get the website, get the business card, start a Yelp, start a Google business page, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All happening, right? The domain costs money, the website costs money, the business cards cost money. All that's coming off the business card with 0% interest. You're basically funding yourself at that point and not getting hit with interest rates every month. And then you got to sell, right? Operations is important. Marketing, designs and stuff is important. But at the end of the day, it comes down to sales. Bringing in revenue. What am I doing with my time that's bringing in money? Bring in the money, pay off that credit card as soon as possible, and get to profiting as soon as possible.
I mean, that's a bang up game plan. Right there, you know what I mean? The one thing that I really thought was good is you got to limit the exposure that you have in the very beginning. So I love I would say, advice about going out and getting a 0 interest credit card. right? Because one of the mistakes that I fell trapped to in the very beginning was funding all of the business activities through my own personal credit.
Okay.
And that in itself was a mistake because that weighs heavy, right? You've got interest rates at like 20% or 19% or 24%, depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
And taking on that stress was something that was very, I would say, corrosive to just like the ability to keep going because they've got all that pressure that shows up every single month. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah.
And another part to that is at the end of the year when you're doing your taxes, are you going to be able to file through and sift through which was business charges versus which was personal?
Mm-hmm.
If everything's just on the business card, everything lives on one place.
Yeah.
Done deal.
Yeah. I mean, that's a real power move, man. I'm going to leave us there today. I just want to say thank you again for coming and just giving us more detail about kind of what the vision is for Spotlight, the other brands that you've created as well, and then kind of what the mentality is from a leadership perspective as well. That's been something that's super valuable to me, and I even took down notes. And you and I both use Monday.com as our CRM documentation tool.
Yeah, that's our full CRM and project management.
Yeah.
I want to leave with this. What I've said today can apply to not just arts or creative industries. This can be applied to literally anything, I think, right? And just because I said something today doesn't mean it's 100% true. There's things that I do that you might not do, right? Give it a shot. If it's not your style, tweak it a little bit and figure out what your systems and how you want to get organized. That's how I would start a business. That's not the only way to start the business, but give it a shot. You'll have trial and error. You'll see what works and doesn't work for you. And again, it's not a one-size-fits-all recommendation, things that I've said today. I just want people to know that I'm not a dictator by any means. You'll learn as you go and what works for your specific industry.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is just getting started, right?
Yeah.
Because you're never going to know what you don't know until you actually get there and you start
There you go.
going. So I appreciate you, dog. Thanks so much
Give
for
me
the time
some.
today, bro. You're the man. Thanks, bro. Guys, it's been another episode of the Heart and Hustle podcast. Thanks again to our guest, Lionel, for coming today.
Peace.
Really appreciate you, dog. Thanks so much. Catch you in the next one.